Hello, folks. This is Panther Pickle. I just did a video and realized about 7 minutes into it that I didn't have my headset turned on. Shit, Shazam. Anyway, um, I'm gonna do a quick one now. Real quick, folks. I just wanted to say that Bryce Young gets some criticization, and the wide receivers are criticized. Some of them, but let me tell you what: a good coach will work around a player's negativities, so to speak. Hunter Renfro, for example, has never had speed, but he makes up for it in other ways, and that's what a good coach can do: work around those negativities of a player. But the player has to have more positives than negatives because the coach can work around one or two negatives depending on those negatives, but they can't make a bad player a good one just for the sake of a GM's draft or an organization's desire. So, for example, um, some players, Will Greer, for example. Uh, no, let me use Jimmy Clausen. Jimmy Clausen, for example, um, was drafted in the second round. The organization wanted him to develop strongly, and they force fed him into starting. But this team wasn't ready for a quarterback that year, and it was just an epic disaster on all sides. And uh, Jimmy Clausen's faded into the history books as a bust and a complete, utterly failure. Um, you take another quarterback, Bryce Young, who was drafted high, and and a lot of people criticize Bryce because they traded up to get Bryce. They gave up DJ Moore to get Bryce. And, I've been guilty of that myself, but it's unfair to Bryce. So while Bryce Young is not my ideal of a competent high quarterback, he is a player that I think uh, that has a lot of talent and a lot of ability. I watched a video yesterday on Panthers.com that had Bryce mic'd up. And I like how after the fumble and the interception, he kind of, the interception rather, he kind of really shrugged it off. The coach, but nobody harped on him, nobody ragged him. He got to the sidelines. The coach started to say something. He said, "Yeah, I know," and that was kind of the end of it. And he went out there and he kept balling. You know, um, if we have to get the run game going really good and then lead into the passing, that's just old school. That's cool. That's fine. Rico had a hell of a game. I could only imagine how great a run game is going to be if you add Chuba into that mix. Um, but hey, um, Trevor Et had a good run there the other day, and a nice pass and a nice catch. He's by far not a guy who's just going to play third wing rest of his career. So, you know, uh, with Brooks coming back next year, uh, Chuba under contract, uh, Rico playing good. My first instincts after a game like last week is we got to keep Rico here long term. But then you add in all the other running back pieces. I don't know that that's feasible because uh, generally you can only have one running back on the field at a time, and they like to get their yards. But so and there is a stance by a lot of folks is you get a bell cow running back to get all your yards, and as long as he has good backups, then that's the way to go. And because the more he plays in a game, the better he gets. Jonathan Stewart used to be like that. Um, but back to Bryce. Bryce gives you a lot. Bryce can throw these accurate balls that are amazing one play and then flub up the next play. But when Bryce gets on a roll, like after the second quarter, or b- actually, it was um, probably toward the end of the second quarter, uh, when he got on his roll, and it continued right on through. and they were after his mistakes, and he got on a roll. But he was also led by a powerful run game, and that game Monday was a team win. It wasn't Rico carried it. It wasn't Bryce Young carried it. It wasn't uh, T Mac carried it. It was a team win. And that's why if you look at wide receiver touchdown ratio, you're going to be like, good Lord, nobody in Carolina can get a touchdown. That's not accurate. Chuba has two receiving touchdowns. Uh, Mitch Evans, the rookie tight end, has two receiving touchdowns. That just proves to you you don't always have to have a touchdown by a wide receiver. And as long as it works, and I'm happy with it. You know, our coaches have some growing to do, unlike everything else, and we fans are impatient and tired of having to develop everybody as we go. But that's the lot that's turned over to us. So it is just that way. Not all teams can develop or can be. Not all rebuilds are rebuilt the same. Some the details matter in a rebuild, folks. Let me tell you that the detail matters, and I'm going to explain um, a little bit here. Let me get this um, off real quick. Um, uh, that's not what I want. Okay, let me get this pulled up what I want. Let me give you this one first. Alrighty, the New England Patriots. A lot of folks try to compare the Panther rebuild with a Patriot rebuild. You really truly can't. The Patriot rebuild had a coaching change, but that's kind of irrelevant because when you change your coach in a rebuild, your rebuild kind of starts over. Or at least gets reset. Your rebuild gets reset rather. Mike Vrabel is a very experienced uh, coach. He's been a head coach for the Titans for years. So you know, he was a player with the Patriots for a long time. He did go to Ohio State. He was with the Texans. He was behind Jeff Fisher. There was a lot of things that he learned as he grew and as he developed as a player and a coach. And he's just a different mindset. He's got a different personality. But it's not just Jeff Fisher. If you take the coaches under Mike Vrabel, Josh McDaniels, we know the history of Josh McDaniels. Uh, he's been a head coach a couple times. He's an excellent play caller. He's got several Super Bowl rings to prove he's a good play caller if you get a good quarterback. Thomas Brown, we know Thomas Brown's history here. He's been a coordinator. He's been an interim coach. Um, you know, um, he's but in the defense, Mike Vrabel can do defensive. He can call defensive plays. Yeah, I don't know that he's been a coordinator 1 year, but I think it was a coordinator 1 year. I'm not certain. But anyway, um, offensively wise, you've got a couple people here um, that um, have a history of play callers. So if one play caller don't work, you kind of have a backup plan, and that's the depth that you need to have if you're going to do a fast rebuild. Now we tried that with Frank Reich. It didn't work out, so we went on to the different style rebuild. Um, well, it's almost too early in the morning for you to do these lives, but um, onto the defense. Not a lot of well known names, but I'm sure if we dug into it, we'd be all right. They're uh, guys that Mike knows well. So um, Jaguars, on the other hand, um, this is uh, this is the former assistant offensive line coach we had last year that went on to be for the Jaguars and is having a really good season. But again, um, you know, Liam Cohen is the head coach of the Jaguars, and they're having a great season. He's first year, but you say, well, golly geez, Dave Canal, Liam Cohen has a more detailed history in as a offensive coordinator and as a coach than Dave Canales has. So, so there's a big difference to that. For example, he he was the offensive coordinator for the Kentucky Wildcats for a good while. Actually, he was the offensive coordinator for Will Levis for many years. But um, so he came, and then he went to work for the Rams for a few years, and then he went for the Bucks OC, and then he came as head coach of the Jaguars. So he has some experience behind him that Dave Canales just didn't have. Um, Now, if you back down, his offensive coordinator is a lot like Brad Isaac, but he 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 did he Grant worked for Carolina for a couple years. He absolutely did. Um, we know Shane Waldron's history. He was the offensive coordinator when Dave for Seattle, and Dave Canales was just the passing game coordinator, and Brad Isaac was the wide receivers coach. So, um, you know, that's backup, so to speak, for Pat. For example, if if Lamb Cohen has some issues calling plays and running the offense like Dave Canales has, at the very least, they can let Shane Waldron call plays if they needed to, and um, that in itself is very admirable and very um there's Buka. He used to be in Carolina last year. But anyway, that's just what I wanted to point out. Because it, it's different. Um it is by far different. Rebuilds are handled different by different teams. And sometimes you have to learn as you go, so to speak. I think the Panthers are going to be all right. Now, I don't have any false narratives to push that we're going to make the playoffs. I don't have any. Um, I am taking this season as one game at a time, and at the end of the season, we'll evaluate everything as a whole. Um, I may make comments or suggestions about certain players, but in the past, I would do a space or I would do a video of the kind of live reaction of games, but I am very well unhinged in the middle of games, and um, it's been my past experience to understand some folks don't relatively understand that. So I won't do any live reactions or live spaces while a Panther game is going on. I'm not going to do that anymore. I know some folks are going to ask about spaces, and I understand that we'll be going back to doing spaces on a regular basis soon. There's just some changes going on right now, and work schedule's a little tight, and the home life is increasing a little bit. So, different things in life affect that. So, we'll do the best we can, and I'll keep pounding and enjoy your day.